Okay, friends, we are just about to get going here. It's 9:30 in the morning. You have joined, taken time out of your schedule. Thank you for doing that. And we already have our first question. The engagement is off the charts. Melanie, yes, Natalie is currently responding to you. So there'll be a recording for you. So thanks for joining. And I'm going to get started here, and people I'm sure will trickle in, but I'll burn a bit of time just talking about myself. If this is your first Toast and Jam webinar you're joining, we do these usually about 5 or 6 a year. So keep on the lookout because we'd love to have you back. We dig into these topics that we feel are timely, relevant, giving you useful information to bring back to your team. New frameworks, new frames of reference, new thinking for you. So we're going to get started. And my intention here is to take about 30 to 35 minutes of your time. And then we're going to be going into a Q&A session. So not too long. I'm not going to burn you through an hour or 2 hours. We're going to jump through and give you all the great content. So first off, I also want to introduce myself. If you haven't met me before, my name is Josiah Shelley. I lead digital strategy at Jan Kelley, but I want us all to meet each other. So I'm watching the comments right now. I want you to say, what's your name? Where are you from? You know, we're working from home. Connection is good. And so I think we should just take a minute in the comments, go into the comments, say, my name is, here's where I'm coming from or listening in from. You know, we're all working from home, so you might be coming from a city or neighborhood nearby. And a special shout out to all the people from Jan Kelley who make this happen. So even Meredith, Nick, Natalie, Shannon, all of you contributing to what makes today a fun day for me to be able to talk to you and share. And some shout outs coming in here. So Victor, working from home in Etobicoke. We've got Christy, from Burlington, Neil, Isabel from Burlington, Joanne from Ottawa, very cool, awesome. Ed, working from home, yeah, I hear you, I'm in the basement, welcome to my basement. And yeah, this is great to see everybody interacting. Feel free to keep the comments coming. So again, my name is Josiah Shelley, I lead digital strategy at Jan Kelley. I've got 2 cute kiddos, 9 chickens. The story behind the chickens, I grew up on a farm. And so I have 4 hens that are laying now, and I got 5 little baby chicks. So this is a great strategy if you have a 2.5-year-old and you have a lot of patience to raise chicks, but I am like dad of the month for my 2.5-year-old. She's loving it. Being in digital for a long time, love analytics, strategy, search, social, e-commerce. I'm kind of the nerd. I'm the analytics guy. So every once in a while, they let me out of my cage and I come and I talk to people like you to share what I've been observing or learning and the things I know. But today we are talking about digital experience. And so digital experience is something that our, Jordan, my glasses are just for the look. Yes, for the nerdy look. Thank you, Jordan. Digital experience we're talking about today. So this is really interesting. If you actually go back in time about a year ago, the leaders at Jan Kelley came up with this webinar series called The Future After. And The Future After was our attempt to kind of describe what are the things that marketing companies or companies as a whole are going to go through? What do they have to pay attention to? And how are they going to be successful a year from now? And one of the stages that we talked about was called reinvention. And what was interesting, we had hundreds of people go through our webinar series. I actually looked at the analytics. We had over 9,000 people visit the landing page and consume that content. And we talked about reinvention, and reinvention being this idea that brands need to be purpose-led first and foremost, and they really need to be thinking about how to level up their experience. How do they deliver a better digital experience? And we knew that this would be really important. And we've seen that, obviously, we've seen that come into fruition. And when you look at now the research a year later, we see things like this digitization of products and services online. And the idea that companies have been saying, you know, we have to bring our products and services either partially or fully digital. And this acceleration of adoption is anywhere between 6 and 10 years, and which is really quite dramatic. and has forced brands to just completely innovate on different levels. And we also see both products and services coming online, but then also followed up with more customer interactions being digital, right? And so if you're going to deliver products and services in a digital setting, you also need to be thinking about how are we meeting our customer needs and having these customer interactions come online. And so that adoption cycle has gone up 3, 4, 5 years. So if you thought you were behind before, now you're extremely far behind as a company unless you've been able to maintain that pace. But what I've observed is that brands have become more agile. They've been adapting, they've been evolving even quicker than ever before. And they've really been adapting and thinking about MVPs and how do I bring these products and services a very simple way. And what I do see is that, people, us, we have changed a lot, right? Over this past year, we've evolved how we bought things, how we interact with people, and none of this is new to you. But what I want to hit home here is that if brands have been accelerating their adoption of both digitization of products and services, if they have really doubled down on doing customer interactions in a digital way, what this means is that brands are competing with very similar goals. Similar goals meaning, first, I have to be present where people's attention is, right? So Clubhouse, I have to pay attention to that because that's where attention is going. And so me as a brand, how do I actually be present in that environment? And then once I have someone's attention, how do I have a meaningful experience, right? How do I deliver when we talked about purpose-led organizations? How do I actually have a meaningful interaction? And then if I go that far and I actually build a bit of a relationship, when there's a value exchange, when they're buying my product or service online, how do I make that easy and convenient? And so if brands are all moving towards this kind of environment, what's happening is that the table stakes, what's expected of you as a brand or as a company, is being raised. And said differently, brands are using now digital services and products and these customer interactions to deliver their promises, And so we as brands have to think about, like, what are we going to do here? How are we going to level up our digital experience? Because the game has been raised and we have to compete faster, better, quicker, more meaningful interactions, and we have to essentially be better than the competition. So how do we do that? This is something that for over a year I've thought about. How do we kind of encourage brands to move past and level up their digital experience? First thing I've observed is that the language around digital experience is kind of vague and confusing, right? And if you've spent some time in this space or attended a conference, you've seen a lot of these different terms around search experience, customer experience, business. I'm in the business of experience, immersive experience, enhanced experience, right? Like all of these things you can read articles on. But what I find is if you're a marketing leader and you need to host or have conversations about digital experience, you have to be speaking the common same language. You can't be just fumbling over these vague uses of these kind of buzz terms. And so if you have, as a marketing leader, ran a meeting perhaps internally and you've said, let's just say you were to grab your closest 5 team members and you're going to host a meeting saying leveling up your digital experience. Everyone's going to bring something different to that conversation. They're going to talk about, we need to build a funnel, or we need to be more consistent on social and more engaging with some cooler interactive graphics, or maybe we need to evolve our checkout or talk about involving text messaging into my communications. This is a confusing conversation. And really my goal of this entire presentation is to enable that marketing leader to have a much more productive conversation about leveling up your digital experience. And I think that starts with a common language, all talking about the same thing. And so I'm going to go through 2 frameworks that are super useful for you. One is about the dimensions of digital experience. The second is about customer experience hierarchy and how we think about how customers feel through those experiences we have, all leading up to really a toolkit for you to be able to host a better meeting internally and talk about this. And so if we're going to be more intentional when we're talking about digital experience, first thing you need is a framework. And I'm going to try not to be the most boring, kind of professor. Like somebody before this was like, Professor Shelley, have fun. So I'm hoping this isn't too like painful, but I'm going to just a couple frameworks, really simple. We're going to dive through them. Won't take up too much brain space for you this morning, or get another coffee. That'll keep you going. So first, the dimensions of digital experience. Here's how you're going to normalize these conversations. The first is really these singular experiences. These are interactions with an asset. So like a landing page, a home page, or if you want to talk about a chatbot or something like that, these are just singular interactions. And you might, as a marketer, be asking questions like, how's the landing page performing? How's our homepage doing? That is one dimension of digital experience that you can understand, think about leveling up, make better. And we're going to talk about and give examples of what singular experiences are. Linear, these are really interactions across a predictable set of assets. So isolating a scenario for you on a linear dimension of digital experience, you're going to ask questions like, how long does it take for a customer to get help at our company? And these are fairly predictable pathways, right? We can imagine you go into Google, I need help from TELUS or Rogers or something, contact us page, phone, or submit a form or chatbot. And it's pretty predictable on how you can get that actual help. And so these are linear experiences. The kind of third dimension of digital experience that we're going to talk about is multi. These are getting more complex, right? Online and offline integrated. These are bigger questions as a marketer you might be asking. So it's like, how are we at ensuring our first-time customers have a memorable, positive experience? That question in itself unpacks like, okay, but where are they coming from? How do we delight them through their experience? How do they receive the product? How do they pay for it? There's a lot of different elements. So when we're talking about digital experience on our teams, we need to make sure that we're all talking about, okay, this is a singular scenario I want to isolate on. This is linear or this is multi. But let's go into some examples that'll break this down for us. Here's an example of one of our clients, PriceFX. If Kelly's on the call, hi. PriceFX, amazing company, super fast growing, B2B pricing software, pricing optimization. They do some great work. So we might look at their homepage redesigned and we ask, how's the homepage performing, right? This is looking at a singular asset, one particular landing page. And so we might actually then be asking questions about, are people playing the video? Are people requesting a demo? Are they clicking explore products or maybe engaging the chatbot on the bottom? This is how we're evaluating that singular experience to know if it's working and doing what we hope. Are the people taking the actions we hope them to take? And so that's a singular experience, fairly straightforward. Linear experiences. Now I'm just giving you an example of Savin. Really proud of another one of our clients. If Joanne's here, or anyone on the team, hi. This is about a linear experience now, right? So if we're asking, how long does it take for a user or customer to get help? So we might look at, okay, how have we enabled customers to do this? It's a predictable path. You know, we have a chatbot, we have a landing page, they go to the chatbot, they get their question resolved, or maybe they go to a blog page or something else to get their answer. So we can look at digital experience across how are customers moving between these different channels. And that's really the linear aspect. If you are interested in a high interest savings account, this is a great way for you to take advantage of good rate. Anyways, next. So multi, we're looking at multi levels of dimensional digital experience. So for example, one of our clients, Mitsubishi Motors, this becomes a little bit more complex, right? How are we at ensuring our first-time customers are having a positive experience? This forces us to think about both online and offline and the movement between them, right? So we're going to be thinking about once people kind of pick their vehicle online, build, price it, and then get recommended to a dealer, like how does this all interact? And how, when they receive the vehicle, how do they feel and what does that look like? And so this is an example of kind of that multi-level digital experience. And so that's kind of the framework. Very simple, right? But I'm just trying to give you just more practical ways to talk about digital experience in your organization, because you can't go into a meeting and just have everybody throwing all these ideas out that are completely unconnected and really challenging to actually sift through what you should do and shouldn't do. So there's your first framework. I've nailed that down for you. If you're coming in a bit late, you've kind of got 3 levels of digital experience: single, linear, and multi. Now, before we talk about the practical ways to elevate your digital experience, and I'm going to get to that, I'm going to give you like the probably applies to any organization. Here's the one thing I would do to actually elevate a singular digital experience or a linear or a multi. But before I get to that, we need to first talk about this framework. So here's the second one I'm going to give you a download on. And this is the idea of a customer experience hierarchy. Okay. So now we have to understand, here's the experience, here's the scenario. We've clearly defined what it is and the question we're trying to answer, but where do we fall? How do we make people feel? So if you're table stakes, it means you're fulfilling expectations. People are happy with the experience. If you have this scenario and you're competitive, you're driving loyalty, people feel good. They don't have to work hard to get what they want, or have you moved into this leader? Now, what I have observed working with organizations is that they believe the experiences they deliver today are either competitive or leader, and they've underestimated how much table stakes has moved in both the past year, but also the past 3 years. Table stakes is a lot higher than you think. And so when I talk about acceleration of digitization of products and services by 7, 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, table stakes is like you're just meeting expectations. It does what I hope it to do. I hope it to do for me. And so you just have to understand that table stakes is a lot higher than you think. And so you need to be very honest about where you're at with this particular, if you're looking at a linear digital experience, for example. And to move into competitive, people start to feel like, oh, I didn't have to work hard for what I needed. Like that was pretty easy. It was personalized to me. It was very simple, and that drives loyalty. And then moving to leader, like I feel good, surprised, and delighted. I've been kind of shocked if you look at, Peloton, and they had this huge recall, right, of all these treadmills. And then you go on social and it's like, I'm not returning my Peloton. Like, I love the treadmill. Like, it was just recalled for safety issues. And you have people who are at this level of like evangelism at the top of the customer experience hierarchy saying, no, I love this thing. I'm not returning it. Like, this is mind blowing to me, right? And so I think what we have to do is be honest with where we're at and what's the next step. How do we move to competitive? And you know what, as Jan Kelley, this is what we do with every client. We try to say, like, how do you stand out online anymore? How do you elevate the digital experience into each level of this hierarchy? So now we've got two things that work really well together, right? I've given you this digital experience kind of framework, the dimensions, single, linear, multi, and now we've got like, how are people feeling as they go through it? And where are we on the hierarchy? Are we just meeting expectations at table stakes, competitive, or are we a leader? Cool. Okay. Next, I'm going to move into 3 ways to elevate user happiness at each of these dimensions. So these are generic. They will apply to you. I don't care if you're B2B, B2C. These are the things that I most commonly think can help organizations at each of these levels. So one, let's talk about singular. You probably have heat maps, right? You'd be like, check that box. I'm heat mapping or click mapping on different pages, and that's great. I think the key question, though, that any org can ask is, are people confused by non-clickable elements? When we talk about elevating user happiness, even at a very small level, if somebody clicks something on the page and it doesn't do what they think or hope it would do, this creates an expectation gap. And that gap will immediately decline satisfaction in that user. And an easy way for you to elevate these kind of experiences is to actually spend some time in your click map, heat map, looking for people who are double clicking, pinch zooming on mobile. You can see these interactions. And this is going to allow you to just identify like really obvious gaps. I have been wrong so many times on landing pages and home pages where I'm like, no, this is amazing. Like people are going to get it all. And then it's like, I look at click maps or heat maps. I'm like, wow, like they thought that was clickable. I have no idea. But you need to satisfy your users that way. And this is an easy way to look at a singular digital experience and say, how do we elevate it? Here's an easy way to do that. And just some examples here. So that's my first tip. Second tip, I'm highlighting a trend, okay? So chatbots, and I know you're rolling your eyes, so another guy or somebody talking about chatbots, but hear me out, okay? A couple of years ago, people would say, well, I don't have the data to do this well, to make the experience great, or it's going to take me way too long, or I need technical expertise to integrate it or set it up. I just want to highlight that I think this year is going to be a big tipping point for chatbots. You even look at Ada, this company I listed. It's Canadian, which I love. So they actually a year ago they were laying off people going into the pandemic, unsure, and doing some operational changes. Now they've got another $120 million of Series C funding. They're scaling like crazy. I know that's one example, but there are a lot of different chatbots that you can use. And I just want to say that if you're looking at a linear experience, right, and you're looking at people moving through their journeys and trying to answer questions like, how long does it take for a customer to get help at our company? Test a chatbot. So there are a lot of chatbots. You can send me a note and I'll share which ones, but there's one that's like, hey, you can have a chatbot deployed within 21 seconds or something crazy like that. Okay, it might not take 21 seconds, it might take a little longer, but these are drag and drop. Your ability to set up a chatbot, integrate it on one specific part of your website and test it out, really easy. And what I've seen is interaction rates are going way up with chatbots. So something just totally applicable, and don't roll your eyes, but I think it's very useful to look at the new options that are available, that you don't need that all this data and things, you can deploy them pretty easily. Third, okay, when we look at multi, another kind of trend is self-service. So if you're B2B or B2C, doesn't matter. You need to be thinking about how you empower, how you actually give some power back to your customers or your users or prospects and allow them to self-serve. And this is a simple, very applicable example of doing a refund for shoes. But there are lots of different ways that you can give more self-service. And if you think about, as a marketer, the cost to build it, and then if you look at it over time, the more people that use it, the cost gets reduced significantly. It's quite an effective way to reduce your customer service inquiries, provide better happiness, and really elevate user happiness at a multi-channel level. So those are my 3 tips to make you smarter and steal them and claim them your own. So I've given you 2 frameworks, right? We've started with the dimensions of digital experience. Now I've overlaid really this idea of customer experience hierarchy. Thank you, Shannon, for working with me on that. And the third piece is really around making sure your organizational mindset is right. Like, these seamless experiences, they don't just happen, right? And to level them up, you have to change your thinking, because my ideas of how to elevate digital experience are really just the culmination of my mindset and how I think as an individual. And organizations that are purposeful and proactive above tactical and reactive do the best in this area. And so some things they believe is that experience is actually worth investing into. There's always something new to learn, technology enabler. These are just generic beliefs, but you need to be purposeful and proactive as an organization. That actually starts with your marketing team. What I've observed is that there are many different marketing mindsets that make up a really high-performing marketing team. And I'm going to go through the 4 that I see come up. I'm sure there's more, but these are the things that, or the marketing mindsets of your team members that I see come to the table. And so the first is this idea of an ROI mindset. So your belief that, like, I'm all about performance, right? I thrive in this idea of like metrics, KPIs, dashboards, optimization, continuously test, improve, and learn. And so this might be the mindset you bring to your marketing team, right? Is I'm hyper focused on really ROI, and everything else is kind of secondary to me. And I believe we typically fall into one of these. We can, of course, move between them, but I think we typically fall into one of these. Second is really that brand first mindset, right? I'm all about brand purpose. I want people to just fall in love with the brand and what represents us, right? I really think that for companies to fully realize their potential, they have to double down and invest in brand. Or maybe you're the cutting edge mindset, right? You're an early adopter. So you love attending conferences, hearing new ideas, testing out new platforms and tools. And I'm sure there are lots of you who fall into this category too. And I definitely do a lot of the time, right? I'm just always interested in the new thing. I want to dig in and understand how things are working, what I need to pay attention to. So maybe this is your mindset that you bring, or maybe you're all about customers and you're like obsessed about customers, right? Personas, journey mapping, audience. You really dig into all of these different details of the customer experience. And you want all these touch points to be positive. seamless, or even magical. So those are kind of the 4 mindsets that I see the most, just to jump back to here. So I see kind of these ROI focused mindsets, brand, or maybe you're more cutting edge or more focused on the customer. Now, the truth is though, that your marketing team, to realize the most potential, to deliver this next level digital experience, to get to the highest kind of potential in the market, you need all these mindsets. You need many mindsets to the table. This is why like diversity of teams in marketing are so great. You just have to have all these mindsets. You can't just win with one. You have to have multiple. Now, what I want to tell you is that what I've observed is that each mindset has both a watch out and a great opportunity when you're approaching your team. For you as a marketing leader, the reason why I'm giving you this is 1, you need to recognize who you are on this kind of chart. And then 2, you need to recognize what team members you're hiring, which ones you have, which ones you need to maybe outsource, which ones you need to maybe just bring in to support some of these initiatives. Because, for example, as an ROI mindset, you might actually undervalue the concept of creating brand for things that you are having a hard time measuring, right? And so you're like, well, if I can't measure it and I don't clearly understand exactly how it connects, I don't want to do it. And I think the strength of the opportunity you have is that you really get measurement and analytics. And so you need to bring metrics and understanding of how you measure success to your team. Or if you're the brand builder, right, you could potentially over-index on more of the brand building activities and under-index on really capturing that demand. So, but what's amazing about you is you think about how to make all of these touch points memorable with customers. Or if you're more the cutting edge mindset, right, your watch out is just that resources are finite and distracting team members is not a healthy thing. And so you have to think about, okay, I'm really good at bringing ideas to the table, staying on top of things, and be okay with not everything's a priority today, but bring those ideas. That's your strength. Or like if you're customer centric and you're just focused on the customer, make sure you don't underestimate how complex customer journeys are today. And that it's not always another persona and I'm just trying to speak truth. I hope that I'm not offending anyone because I actually value all these opinions and I want them all on my team all the time. And I think probably with all our attendees today, we would have like the best marketing team ever because we have all these different mindsets we're bringing to the table. But your opportunity is to really dig into that research you have and fuel conversations and ideas. And these are kind of the different mindsets. So, I'm starting to kind of build this out for you, thinking about mindset, thinking about customer experience hierarchy and the dimensions of digital experience. But I'm going to engage you now. So if you're distracted and looking at something else, I'm going to bring you back, right? Look at me. I'm here. We're here. Be present. So the next thing I want to do, though, is ask a fun question. Okay. So Menti, if you've never used before, we love to use this on our presentations. This is the idea of going online. So enter into your phone, menti.com, use the code 4932-5480. I'm just going to make sure this loads properly. And just, I want to ask the question. So what type of marketer mindset do you typically bring to your team? What do you bring? What's the typical mindset that you're like, this is what I bring to my team first? Okay, cool. We got all these answers coming in. This is great. So yeah, keep going. If you're on your phone, like come back. I know there's more of you. Go onto your phone, menti.com, or open a new browser and enter in 4932-5480. What's the mindset you bring to your team? Look at this nice mix here. This is good. Yeah, keep it coming. Pull it up. I want to know. I want to know who's in the audience. Could we really form the best marketing team in the world? This is the time to figure that out. Okay. Wow, what a mix, eh? Where people would say, like, what mindset do I typically bring to my team? So you've got customer first, brand, ROI, good mix there. Cutting edge, interesting. People would say, like, I don't know if that's like my thing. Like, always new ideas and staying on top. This is very cool. Thanks for your participation. I really appreciate that. Yeah, very neat, very neat. Awesome. So we're getting to the end. We're almost at 10 and I promised that I would leave time, but I have a few things to give to you before we move on. So first of all, And thanks for participating in this. This is very cool. And I see some more coming in, and keep it coming. I want to reflect on some of this data. I'll share it on LinkedIn actually after, and then we can all kind of participate. But this is pretty cool. So I got a couple key takeaways for you. And the key takeaways are this. One is that, okay, the reason I've been giving you all of this information is I think the next step for you as a marketing leader is you need to host this actual session with your team, okay? This session, I'm going to give you a toolkit to do this. So I'm going to give you all the prep, all the information you need, and even the ideas. So steal my ideas. So that heat map example, deploying simple chatbots, test engagement, investing in self-service. So those are those three things, super simple, probably widely applicable. You can be the smart person and just have all these wonderful ideas without even prepping for the meeting. That's great. But this should be a team working session, a brainstorming session. I'm going to give you kind of everything you need. So what I'm going to give you is toolkit. Toolkit includes, you got the 2 frameworks we talked about, short videos. I've got like 2-minute videos I put together describing these 2 frameworks. So it's like the 5-minute overview. This is good too if you just want to give this to your team. So it's like, hey, some thinking for you to consider. Like, here's our talk about digital experience. So these are the 2 things that you need. I'm giving you that. I'll give you the preparation and agenda for this meeting. So like, invite your team members, say, hey, you need to bring some scenarios, right? Bring scenarios around these different dimensions of digital experience. We're going to identify as a team, what's the current state in that customer experience hierarchy? And then bring some brainstorming ideas. So the last piece of this toolkit, I built a mural template for you. So you don't even have to do that, which is great. And the mural template, you can actually, I'll duplicate it for you. You'll have that. If you're not familiar with Mural, it's an online collaboration tool. So you can actually just duplicate this and run this session with your team. I think it's really important. Obviously, we're here to help, but I'm trying to give you everything you need as a marketing leader to just have a level up conversation about digital experience in a very productive way. And so here's the idea. All you have to do, and if you're still on Menti on your phone, pretty simple. You just fill out your name, company email. I'll zip this to you. Natalie is wonderful with follow-up and making sure everybody gets what they need. So all you have to do, go to menti.com where I currently were, and I'll just make sure it updated so that way you can find it. I'll pull it up on my phone right now. Make sure you can get that. And then we'll zip you that toolkit so you can host this meeting with your team. I'm trying to make it super valuable and practical for you. Yeah, cool. Looks like it's there. Look at me testing it out, making sure everything's good. Awesome. Okay, so that's all you have to do. You can also just shoot a message to the moderator in the comments with your name and email. If that's easier, we can send it to you that way. So I'm never good with like closing off a presentation. We're going to jump to Q&A. I always say like we're done, but we're going to jump to Q&A. So what I want to do is open this up for questions. If you have questions for me, you want to ask, great. I'm here for them, and you can shoot them in the Q&A part of this actual presentation. You can do some comments if you want to do comments, and I can answer your questions. That's great. Yep. Send us a message in the chat. Thank you, Natalie. If you'd like to receive the toolkit. I'm not looking at Slack, by the way. I have another screen here. I'm looking at the comments. Awesome. So one question that came into me is this idea of self-service. Oh yeah, David Carter, welcome. We'll for sure send that to you. You can totally just comment if you want that toolkit around digital experience. You can host that with your team or invite us to the table. We're happy to help. One question around, is this applicable to also B2B and B2C, this idea of self-service? So what I believe around particularly self-service is that this is a trend of building out this kind of capability of empowering the customer, right? And so empowering the customer, I think, is a really important aspect of organizations today. So if you're in B2B or B2C, think about those repetitive kind of non-value add things your team might be doing to help and support customers make decisions. And how do you build tools and things that enable them to be self-service? I think it's widely applicable to both. B2B and B2C. Okay, awesome. Another question. Patrick Good. Hello, hello. Thoughts on enhancing digital experience for a brand that has zero e-commerce self-service opportunity? Interesting. So if you're I'm assuming it's an e-commerce brand then. I think one thing you should think about, I mean, I mentioned chatbots. I think that's widely applicable, but also I've seen really good engagement with quizzes. Okay, so I think you should consider what can you do from a quiz perspective, asking questions, helping people navigate and come to an answer or conclusion that will kind of elevate or keep people engaged. Because I think engagement is an important thing, and giving people an ability to engage on your website, a good way to do that would be a quiz. I would say start there, and you can get really simple. I'll let you Google all the different software to allow you to do a quiz for your website. But I think that's a very standard thing that I see coming up more and more, and brands are doing a good job with that. Answer live. There you go, Patrick. Mr. Tamblin, is one of the elements of experience single, linear, multi better than another, or are these equally valuable ways of thinking and evaluating? That's a fun question. So the way I would think about it is if you want to make a big change, you're going to do that at the multi-dimension, right? The reason Peloton has fanatic fans isn't because they've got the things in the right spot on their landing page. It's because they've reinvented this complex online, offline. We typically do like customer journey mapping, empathy mapping, research into customers to determine like, how do we make these big changes? And I think that's where you'd find the most impact. But then the return on investment, right? You've got way more time invested to get to there. So I would think about maybe if you're planning and doing organizational planning, you think about leveling up a multi, but then tacking off some of these linear or even shorter kind of priorities around singular. That's how I would approach that. What is your advice for building that perfect team with multiple mindsets? Anonymous. So here's what I would say. Advice for building that perfect team with multiple mindsets. Mindsets are hard to change once they're on your team. That's what I've observed. But if you are hiring and building your team, I think you could factor this into your process. And I think we all know that diversity and inclusion, huge topic, and it's got all the research to back that it's really valuable. But from a marketing mindset perspective, I would maybe be asking, coming up with a series of questions, and this would be actually fun to do, which I would love to do. And these are the things I do in my spare time, nerdy things. What are the series of questions where you could actually determine what mindset someone's going to bring to your team? So like, what are those series of questions, or maybe asking like a situational question in the interview process to help your team kind of establish that? I think that would be very cool. So I think it happens at hiring. It can happen moving team members around. You can shape mindset depending on what stage that team member's coming in. And everyone can change, but it's just challenging. So thank you, Anonymous. Moving on, for B2B self-service. Carla, hi Carla. For B2B self-service, is there a fee-based service scenario that you've helped with? What is the methodology in determining those service-based fees? So having people pay for the self-service scenario. This is interesting. I think having people pay, it might be prohibitive from people actually adopting and using a new method. If you're talking about how do we fund these initiatives of applying more self-service, it's maybe a different question. I think you have to start with a different question though, which is like, what self-service elements are most valuable in your setting? And then you work down this path of structuring, how do we make sure we're covering costs or et cetera around it? Very interesting question, but I think we have to start with, what are we solving for first? And is that a big enough pain to justify other means? Like with Amazon, we happily pay to be a part of their loyalty program because we believe that free fast shipping is worth it. Thanks, Carla, for that question. Aldert, with the latest Google algorithm update, how do core website vitals play a role in particular with chatbots that could work against site speed? Nice. That's a good question. Yeah, really good. So if people aren't familiar, Core Website Vitals is kind of a new algorithm update. Google Search Console is going to reveal kind of these metrics to you. It has a lot to do with page load speed, and Google's kind of consolidating a bunch of things like secure websites, stuff like that. So yeah, I totally agree. So chatbots could work against site speed. I will say that in my experience, different vendors that supply chatbots can affect site loading speed in different ways. I'm not going to answer that question specifically, but it is scenario based. And if your vendor is like particularly slow, there are different options that give you different kind of site speed depending on what's integrated. So something just to look into, like compare them. And I'm sure that would be a great blog post, Albert, if you compare these and show the site speed differences across your site. That's a good blog. Maybe I should let's write that together. We'll write that together. That's my answer there. So Chantel, I'm honored. Thank you. How do you recommend marketers create a case for leveling up, particularly to get their C-suite on board? What I've observed about C-suite, and we're gonna end. Yeah, I'm actually doing okay, I think, for timing, so I'm right shortly. I think getting C-suite on board is first, you at the C-suite level, whoever's responsible for marketing has to have that proactive mindset that believes that investing into their experience is going to affect business results. Like there has to be a belief at the top, or else you're just pushing something up and it'd be quite challenging. I think you need to frame it in ROI, right? You have to go back to there's a bit of an ROI mindset that has to play at the table. How are we measuring this? How are we going to establish a quick win? The quick win will inform the business case for the broader objective of elevating maybe a multi-digital experience and then bring that more to the C-suite. I think there's a bit of a process there that we can work through in order to kind of influence that. But I certainly believe that C-suite needs to be on board with marketing as a priority, and it makes a difference. Thank you, Chantal. Okay, any other question? I'm just going to scroll through our chat. I think that's really good. So this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Toast and Jam, as I said, stay on top of our LinkedIn company page. We do events and invite you to them. We try to share great content. Thank you all for taking time to come out and listening to me talk about things that I love passionately. So you can always shoot us a message. So that was a mentee. You can leave your name, email address. We can follow up. Thank you, Diane, for saying that's very valuable. Thank you all for coming. I really enjoy doing this with you. So without further ado, that is everything. Thank you very much. Take care.